Last night, in his address to the nation, President Bush said that he rejected the option of a phased withdrawal of U.S. troops because it would result in total civil war. This conclusion is based on the assumption that Iraq consists of three tidally demarcated ethnic groups who hate each other and need to be controlled by a poorly managed but basically benevolent U.S. occupation. However, the conflict in Iraq is not primarily sectarian. It is not primarily a religious or cultural war. Rather, it is political.
That's right.
Administration officials constantly refer to Iraq's sectarian conflict as a Sunni-Shia division. But the true nature of the struggle in Iraq is revealed in Bush's plans for a surge in troops. During his speech last night, Bush noted that Al-Qaeda of Mesopotamia and Sunni nationalists are especially active in the Anbar province of western Iraq. Yet only 4,000 of the 20,000 troops he wants to send in this surge would be sent to Anbar. If the purpose of the invasion of Iraq was to fight the terrorists, why are more troops, approximately 16,000, being sent to Baghdad rather than Anbar? Administration officials explain it is because there is more violence in Baghdad. But what is the nature of this violence? Administration officials attributed to sectarian conflict between Sunnis and Shias, that is a religious war. They mentioned such events as the bombing of the Shia mosque in Samarra last February. But the most important conflicts in Baghdad are not actually between Sunnis and Shias. Rather, they are between Shias and Shias, such as the huge street battles fought between the Barter Brigades and the Mahdi Army in Baghdad last August. The Barter Brigade is the armed branch of the Supreme Council of the Islamic Revolution in Iraq, one of the two main parties in the Iraqi government of Nouri al-Maliki. The other main party, Al-Dawa, of which Nouri al-Maliki is a member, has a militia, but it is much smaller and less powerful than that of the Barter Brigades. Consequently, the Interior Ministry is governed by a member of the Supreme Council of Islamic Revolution in Iraq, also known as SIRI. His name is Bayan Jabir. Jabir has filled the Iraq police force with Wadar fighters. These police units regularly are backed by U.S. troops. The Mahdi Army, on the other hand, unlike the Badar Brigades, has not been incorporated into the Al-Sadar. The popular base of the Mahdi Army is Sadar City, a massive 3 million person Shia slum, only a few miles south of Baghdad. The population of Sadar City represents 20% of Iraq's Shias. This is a lot of people, considering that 60% of Iraq's total population is Shia. Sadar and the Mahdi Army have turned Sadar City into a liberated area. The Mahdi soldiers there are the police force of the community, and U.S. soldiers are not permitted to enter the city. These are the types of political and sectarian constraints on troop movement which Bush referred to last night when he was explaining why the last effort to secure Baghdad, Operation Together Forward 2, failed. The deployment of almost 16,000 troops to Baghdad and only 4,000 to Anbar speaks volumes on the true nature of the conflict in Iraq. The surge in troops primarily to Baghdad is a desperate attempt to extend the authority of the U.S.-backed Iraqi government to politically autonomous areas in Iraq like Sadar City. The organization in Sadar City is an echo of similar developments in Sunni cities. The American attacks on various Sunni cities, particularly Fallujah, were attempts to reverse this trend towards self-governing cities. Several commentators have referred to this trend as balkanization and have implied that it can spell only suffering and bloodshed for Iraqis. However, the breakdown of Iraq into smaller states does not necessarily mean a descent into civil war, as occurred in Yugoslavia. It should be remembered that Iraq at one time did not even exist. Rather, it was merely a part of the Ottoman Empire. After World War I, the Treaty of Versailles, as a result of the Treaty of Versailles, the Ottoman Empire was dissolved into no fewer than 11 smaller countries. The dissolution of this empire resulted in the birth of the modern Middle East. Likewise, the liberation of the Baltic and Central Asian republics following the collapse of Soviet Russia in 1991 was celebrated in our country as a victory for democracy. But, like the French, who were unwilling to divide Indochina into Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, the United States is in staunch opposition to any plans for a partition. Rather, we demand that all areas of Iraq fall under the control of one central government located in Baghdad. As the fall of empires can be democratic, so the creation of empires is usually undemocratic. The current size of America is the result of the genocide of the Native American Indians, of Manifest Destiny, and of the 1845 Mexican War, during which we seized the territories of California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico, which were all formerly part of Mexico. Both of these conflicts with the Native Americans and with the Mexicans were justified with speeches about the glory of expanding Anglo-Saxon democracy. Now we are bringing democracy to Baghdad. True democracy would require withdrawing U.S. troops now and allowing Iraqis to determine their own destiny. Yes. No to